Well, tonight, the drumbeat for impeachment has grown in our state as all 7 Democratic members of Washington's congressional delegation reportedly now support an impeachment inquiry against the president. And Brian, you have a special guest in studio.
That's right, Jamie. Talking to us tonight to talk about impeachment and more is Congressman Rick Larsen from Washington's 2nd District. First off, thank you for being here and welcome back, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
Let's talk about impeachment and in particular the timing of this. Congress is now in a 6-week hiatus. Some critics are saying, you know, you may lose momentum in terms of an impeachment inquiry. What do you say about that?
Well, I don't know if that's it's possible to lose that momentum. We saw 4 other members of the Washington State delegation this last weekend come out for an impeachment inquiry. That makes all 7 of us in the House of Representatives wanting that to happen. My guess is that between now and the time when Congress is back in session, you'll probably have a few more members around the country come out for an inquiry as well. So the momentum is still there. But it's, you know, the investigations taking place in Congress still have to occur. We still have to go through a process, and I don't know where that will end up.
Yeah, you mentioned the 7 Washington delegation, Democratic delegation now part of this inquiry now. You're one of the first, though. What was the tipping point, though, for the rest of the group?
I think for the rest of the group, despite what maybe the public thought they saw in the Mueller hearings last week, on Capitol Hill, members of Congress were really, Democrats were really impacted by that. And I think what you saw this past weekend with the 4 other Democrats in the delegation, they cited the Mueller testimony as really laying out the specific pathway and concerns on obstruction of justice and Russian interference in our election as justification for an inquiry.
Okay, I want to talk about Boeing now. Of course, you are the chair of the Aviation Committee. There was a report, though, in the New York Times that claimed the FAA's process for guaranteeing the safety of the 737 MAX was extremely flawed. The first question to you is, do you agree with that?
Do I agree with the specific report of the New York Times?
The report, and do you think it's flawed?
It's certainly it is a specific issue that we are looking at. Part of the committee's investigation is to look at the certification process. How did this airplane, and the training for it get certified in the first place? And so we're doing a look back on that. Going forward, the FAA, at our insistence in Congress, established an independent advisory group that its job is to look at what the FAA is doing to return this plane to service. So the FAA will have responsibility for a final decision, but this independent group is giving a lot of input, asking a lot of questions, and keeping the FAA accountable, in addition to the oversight hearings that we've been holding.
Yeah, we've heard different timelines on when this plane will be able to fly back in the skies again. What are your thoughts on that?
It is in no one's interest to put a dart on a date on a calendar. Safety has to be the timeline. When this plane is safe to return to service, then it will return to service, and no sooner than that.
Okay. I want to talk about the tragic events down in Gilroy, California. You know, it's just an absolute tragedy that happened down there. But what is Congress doing to make sure that events like that don't happen again? Is there something on the agenda perhaps before 2020?
Well, let me first say that my heart as well goes out to the victims and the families and that town. That festival there is an annual festival. It's a big festival, and the first responders did a great job responding. The perpetrator used an AK-47-like rifle, an assault rifle. One of the things that we need to do is not just have background checks for all sales, but reinstate the federal ban on assault weapons. That might have stopped this from happening. It certainly would have created more hurdles for this person, but I think that's what we need to do. In 2020, we'll see. I think that there's still a lot of resistance to sweeping comprehensive gun safety legislation, but perhaps we can take an approach that looks at specific issues.
Yeah, you talk about some of those hurdles. I mean, gun rights folks will say that there are no laws that can keep a gun out of the hands of someone who wants one. So what do you say about that?
I think if we can create higher hurdles for those folks, it certainly can delay the opportunity that some of these people have to harm others. And if you have that extra time, you know, one resource that we never have enough of is time. And if law enforcement has more time, if people have more time to respond, then you can, in fact, create those hurdles, perhaps then saving lives in the future.
And also, members of Congress are going to be heading to the southern border pretty soon here. I understand you went to McAllen, Texas recently to go visit a detention center out there. Just tell us what you saw. What did you see out there?
Yeah, so I was able to visit a shelter where some of these unaccompanied children are located. Went to a processing center, went to a detention center as well. Look, I guess I want to be really clear that in my view, it is conditions are not as bad as some members of Congress are saying it is, but it is certainly bad enough. It is overwhelming for our men and women in Border Patrol and Customs Border Protection. We're not prepared for the number of folks, and that is creating problems. But the root of that are the policies, in my view, the policies that this administration has. Yeah. And so we did pass a supplemental bill that will help resolve some of those crowding issues. But they're still at the root, I think, some policy that this administration has that is contributing to this problem. We need to have an immigration policy, a comprehensive immigration reform to address all these issues, and we're not getting there yet.
Okay, and then the last question I have for you, and we only have a few seconds left, about 30 seconds left, is the asylum process under attack by this executive order. Is there anything Congress can do to fight back and protect existing asylum laws? Yeah, we can. We did pass a budget agreement before we left for the district work period, but we have to do the spending bills in September. And in doing the spending bills, we can actually craft the language inside those spending bills to address concerns that we have about this approach on asylees coming to the United States. All right, Congressman Rick Larsen, thank you for your time. Welcome back. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, Jamie.